Hey guys, what's going on? It's your girl Nick. So, welcome. It is Christmas Eve. Can you believe it is Christmas Eve? So, we are 51 shows in. It's almost been a year. And tonight we're just going to chat a bit and talk about healing and mental health and trauma and why it's so important to take care of these things. So just kind of join in, chat with me, ask questions. You can be live if you want to. Hit me up and I'll bring you in. But anyway, it is December 24th. Um, Christmas Eve. And this is show 51. And this is Healing December. So, what I wanted to do tonight is just give you guys some touch points on why it is important to heal from trauma. First of all, we want to understand that trauma impacts everybody in different ways, in different forms. And trauma can happen and be a result of anything and in many forms. So, when we did the show, the first show of the month, and we had Katrina Kirk Franks, LPC associate, with us. She's one of our favorites on the Convo. We were talking about um, healing from trauma because what kind of legacy do you want to leave? And what that sounds like to me is one of the important reasons you want to, deal with trauma, heal from trauma, um, kind of unpack those traumatic things that happened to you. One of the reasons is because your legacy is important. If you do not unpack your trauma, if you do not do the work to heal from trauma, if you don't do what is needed to kind of put those things in perspective and put the negative stuff at bay, it can impact who you are and what people think of you and what people feel about you. And it can impact the legacy that you intend to leave. Do we want to leave a legacy of mess? Or do we want to leave a legacy of blessings? And so, what happens is when you don't unpack your trauma or you don't deal with those traumatic things that have been happening to you, it compounds and it impacts us internally. And then that impacts us in a negative manner or can have an impact in a negative manner. And then that has really, you know, broad consequences to the type of legacy that we leave. Do we want to be known for mess? Do we want to be known for blessings? Do we want to be known for always having negativity? Do we want to be known for bringing positive energy? I'm just using myself um, as a example. I went through a period of time where I was not dealing with anything, like nothing. Like I was just like, oh, okay, it'll just kind of handle itself. And then I got into this kind of routine where I really wasn't pleasant to be around. I wasn't pleasant. I wasn't fun. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't my normal jovial self. I wasn't the life of the party. And if it makes sense, I'm kind of an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. Like I really do like being to myself and being at home. But in everything I do, I'm always forced to the front of the room or forced to the front of the situation or in some kind of role where I'm taking the lead in something. And so what was happening is I was experiencing a lot of stuff. Um, Deaths in the family, going through grief, going through loss, um, different changes with life, leaving home, moving to another place, going to college, trying to find my way, graduating from college, losing boyfriends, losing friends, losing relatives, not being able to find a job. So I had all of this change and trauma and negative experiences, and just where I wasn't really, floating on all cylinders, moving in all the right directions, and everything kind of came in at me at once. And so I wasn't doing a very good job dealing with the change, the experiences, the everything. And so that took a toll on me personally because it impacted my sleep. It impacted my ability to get rest. It impacted my moods. I was always irritable. I never had enough sleep. I was always tired. Like I was extremely, extremely fatigued. Um, if you don't get enough rest and you don't hydrate, you don't eat right, I had no energy. I was moody all the time. I was not fun to be around. And then I started getting depressed. I just was not myself. So when our future doc was discussing the importance of healing trauma and what legacy you want to leave, that is a reason you want to deal with trauma. You want to put the work in, you want to address those things that are happening so you don't have that just festering inside until it boils over and you can't do anything about it. Um, I didn't want to be labeled as someone who was irritable, who was not fun to be around, who was always moody, who was always tired, who was never doing anything with friends and family. So I had to start dealing with the things that I was going through, dealing with unpacking those things, the trauma, the bad, you know, experiences, talking to someone so I can kind of get that out and learn how to cope better. Stop being depressed, becoming a hermit, not understanding that everybody goes through something. And, it's not just you going through something, everybody goes through something. So, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What do you want to do? What are the things that you want to share with other people? How do you want your life to look, and what do you want your life to look like at the end of the day when you're no longer here? What do you want people to say about you? So deal with your trauma, deal with those nasty little things that we only think happen to us that happens to everybody else. Sit with somebody, unpack those things, get some tools so you can become a better person and not hold all of that stuff in. What legacy do you want to leave? So we'll be right back after this brief little message. Hey, guys, and we're back. So, so, what legacy are you leaving or want to leave? So, another thing that Katrina Kirk Frank's LPC associate was talking about was during the importance of healing is um, how to heal. Do you know how to heal? Do you know what to do to heal? I'm going to give you some tips. Number one, you have to make the decision to heal. You have to be ready to heal. You have to be ready to do the work. What that looks like is find you a professional to talk to. Um, I know a lot of us think that it's okay just to have that one person we can go to for every little thing. I have several people I can go to for a lot of things. But sometimes you need a professional. Do not be afraid to find a counselor to speak with. There are tons of counselors. There are licensed clinical social workers. There are licensed professional counselors. There are counselors that specialize in trauma. There are counselors that specialize in, kind of alternative therapies to deal with trauma. There are religious based counselors, there are secular counselors. So don't be afraid to find someone to talk to. I have a combination on my team. I have a counselor whom I love who blessed us with his presence, Dr. Rod Stodgel. He is a counselor. He also has a religious background. I have introduced you to several in the village. Katrina Kirk Franks, who is a LPC associate. So that means she's a licensed professional counselor on a higher level, LPCA. Um, I've introduced you to Mr. Patrick Powell. He is a licensed psychologist. Um, I don't know if he's licensed. I'm sorry. He's a psychologist, just in case. I don't want to put that out there. But he is a psychologist. I've introduced you to Dr. Nichelle Chandler. Dr. Chandler is a licensed professional counselor as well. Um, Honey Honey Owens Henderson. She is a licensed clinical social worker. Um, uh, Lanisha Creeks. She is a counselor as well. So you have resources, guys. There are lots of resources at your fingertips, but just know how you heal is you have to make the decision to heal and do the work. So you have to make a decision that you want to do something different. You have to make a decision that you don't want to wallow in the things that have happened to you. You have to make a decision that you want to talk about those things, unpack those things, and move forward. So, how do you heal? Number one, make the decision to heal. Another thing is what is all attached to you? You know, what are you holding on to? What is that baggage? That impacts your ability to heal. If you put the work in and you do the work and you don't let that stuff go, um, that impacts your ability to heal. The other thing is think about why you're here. Why has God brought you here? What is the reason you are here? We are all here for a reason and a season. We all have a purpose on this earth. So start thinking about what your purpose is, and know that God put you here for a reason. We all go through things. That is something that I struggled with for a while. I wasn't always sure what my purpose was. I wasn't always, 100% about what I'm supposed to be doing. And as I started unpacking the things I like to do, the things that I'm good at, the things that all of these little things have in common, I'm very comfortable in saying that I've kind of figured out what my purpose is. Um, my purpose is to share and serve. My purpose is to help other people. So everything I do has a component of service. Everything I do has a component of sharing. So my purpose is to serve, share, and be a blessing to other people. So you have to know that you have a unique purpose. You are here for a unique reason, and you have to rest in that and be comfortable in that. Be comfortable and know that God has placed you here to be a blessing to other people in whatever unique way He's given you to do that. And you have to be comfortable in your own skin and stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop comparing yourself to other situations. And just go with the flow and do what you know you've been called to do. So we will be right back. Let you marinate on that for a minute. And we're back. Okay, so some more takeaways as to why healing is so important. Healing never stops. We all go through things and that never stops. Change is constant. Life is constant until there is no more life for you to live. So the work that we're doing, the work that we need to do is always constant. There is something that we always need to work on. There is something that we always need to do. Um, Healing never stops. So we go through a traumatic experience. We have um, some life changing something that happens. Um, we were robbed at gunpoint. We experienced a really, really traumatic loss. Um, we were abused in some manner. We were mistreated in some way. We get over it. We do the work. We heal. We move on. And then something else happens. Life was never designed to be completely easy. Life was never designed for us to just be, oh, okay, happy go lucky all the time. Um, Not to say that it can't be, but it just wasn't designed that way. Things happen. We interact with other people all the time. We are constantly involved in something in some way, shape, or form or fashion. So the experiences always happen. So if experience always happens, experience does not always promise to be good. It can be traumatic, it can be mediocre. Something is always going on that we are involved in. So the healing never stops. When you go through something, um, we need to understand that we still have to do the work. We still have to unpack whatever traumatic, whatever happens. So the healing never stops. So thank you, Katrina, for your insight and your tips and tools on that first session we had this month. Then Miss Honey Owens Henderson came to talk to us, and she is a licensed clinical social worker. And we talked about intergenerational trauma. So, intergenerational trauma is that trauma that kind of is passed down um, family member to family member, friend to friend, um, person to person. Um, I like to think of it as um, example, and this will be a better analogy. I'm going to give you an example. Mom experienced a whole lot of trauma growing up that she never dealt with. And so as she grew older, she started dealing with things, but she never quite let those things go. So, what was passed down to her children is the inability to cope with trauma. Um, Mom didn't know how to let it go. So, when something bad now happened to the son, or now happens to the daughter, or now happens to the close relative that's always around mom, none of them know how to let it go. So that is passed from person to person, from generation to generation. So what happens with the son? The son doesn't deal with it because mom never dealt with it, because mom didn't have the tools to deal with it. So now the son doesn't have the tools to deal with it. So now the son has children, and the son passes that inability to deal with the trauma to his offspring. The daughter um, didn't know how to deal with it, but the daughter chose to go to counseling and to seek help. And so she's now unpacking the things that happened to her. So while it was passed down to her, now she is breaking the cycle. So when you think about intergenerational trauma, You want to think about those things that leave a legacy. Remember, Miss Katrina was talking about what legacy do you want to leave? Intergenerational trauma are those things that we're leaving a legacy of trauma. So, this is why it is important to heal from trauma. We don't want to pass that generation to generation to generation. You guys, it is okay to seek help. It is okay to go to a counselor. It is okay to have a professional that you can lean on to talk things through. Um, we don't know how to do everything. The Lord has gifted us with wonderful people that know how to help us unpack things. And it doesn't always have to be completely traumatic, drama. Um, it can just be something that you need help and assistance with coping. Um, it's okay to get a counselor. Remember, I told you that there are all types of counselors. There are social workers, there are counselors, there are therapists, there are secular counselors, there are religious based counselors. I've had the gamut. Because sometimes you just need a different perspective to help you get over the experiences that you are um, going through. So, when it comes to intergenerational trauma, please invest the time, invest the resources into yourself to get the help you need. Um, Trauma can be healed, guys. We don't have to bury things and just keep it and bury it down. Um, want to be transparent about why you don't want those things to just be deep and buried. I shared with you guys earlier this year that I was depressed, that I, in my 20s, had a bout where I had decided to take my own life. But God, you guys, when you're going through life and you're going through life doing life by yourself and you're not talking to people, you're not sharing with people, you're not being transparent about what's going on, those are the things that can happen. um I'm very high functioning. Nobody knew that I was depressed. But I would go home at night, sit in my room in my apartment, just thinking about um, how easy it would be for me not to be here. I'm so glad that the Lord saved me from myself. Um, but what that did teach me was I needed to open up and I needed to talk to someone. So guys, I'm telling you, there are all types of resources out here for you to speak to handle whatever it is that you're going through. Do not be afraid to invest time in yourself. Do not be afraid to spend the money. If you don't have the money for counseling, reach out to your school or your job. They have these things called EAP. They're built into your healthcare plans because mental health is important. EAP gives you 4 or 5 visits free. Um, you don't have to pay for those visits. And then if you need counseling after that, let them know that you need some resources. There are tons of free counseling services out here. There are services offered through your local churches. There are services through community organizations. There are mental health referrals, counseling referrals available to anyone that needs them. If you're having a hard time finding them, reach out to me. I will give you some resources, but make the decision to get the help make the decision to stop the intergenerational trauma from taking over your life. The other thing is when you're dealing with trauma and you've decided to put in the work, you want to make sure that you are talking to people who specialize in whatever it is that you need to talk about. So, again, there are resources out here. If you need help dealing with trauma that happened because you were sexually abused, I would go to a counselor or therapist that specializes in sexual abuse. If you need a counselor because you've had issues with abandonment, I would go to a counselor that specializes in abandonment issues. So when you're deciding to put the work in and do the work to heal, there are tons of resources, and find a therapist, find a counselor, find a professional that specializes in what you need. Um, we'll be right back. And we're back. I know you guys probably feel like I'm taking a lot of breaks. It's just me. The studio is closed tonight, but I wanted to make sure that we gave you a full year of shows. So I am broadcasting from StreamYard from home because we have the technology to do that. And it was important to me to deliver content tonight, especially since we're dealing with healing from trauma. Um, Dr. Nichelle Chandler and our guest co host, Patrick Powell, they did a wonderful job last week. I could not be with you guys because I was on a business trip. But I wanted to make sure that we did not miss a beat. And Dr. Chandler really blessed us last week with a lot of useful information. One of the things she touched on, besides the different types of trauma, was she touched on um, having an emotional response to trauma. I think that's very important because sometimes we don't think about what our response to the trauma actually is. Um, there are all types of emotional responses that can be triggered when you're going through a difficult situation, a challenging situation that results in a traumatic experience. So, kind of keep your hand on what emotional response was triggered with the event that you experienced. Um, again, I'm here to serve. I'm here to be transparent. I'm here um, to kind of make you think and share information. And when we're talking about these things, so um, I was robbed at gunpoint back in 2015. People might say that that's not anything that's brand new, but you know what? It was new to me. Um, I had never experienced anything like that. You know, I'm single. I'm always by myself. I'm doing things alone. I'm an only child. So I'm always aware of my surroundings. Um, so I was at the hospital visiting my grandmother, and I had gone home to get a change of clothes so I could relieve my mom so she could go home and get some rest. My aunt was waiting for me in the hospital lobby and she was standing at the door. I had called and said, "Hey, I'm parking. I'm on my way. Um, I'm here. I'm parking. I'm about to get out the car." I get out of my car. And as I get out of the car, um, a young man approaches me from behind, sticks the gun in my face. I have my phone in my hand. I have my oversized purse because I had stuffed all of my clothes in my oversized purse. Um, and he says to me with the gun in my face, um, "Give me your stuff, and I don't want to hear nothing, or I'll shoot." Y'all, the only thing that went through my mind, the only thing I could think of was my mother is upstairs in this hospital caring for my sick grandmother, who we lost a couple of days later. My aunt, who is in law enforcement, is waiting for me at this door. What is going to happen to me if I fight this guy? What is going to happen if I give him what he wants and he still can decide to end my life? He had a gun in my face. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I, after the fact, my aunt, I gave him the bag and he took off running, got in the car and left. They never found my bag. And the thing that was of value was the phone. The phone was worth more than the purse and the contents in the purse. The only thing that was in the purse that really meant something were the jump drives that I had, that had family pictures and business documents and my dissertation um, work and documents. But at the end of the day, all I was worried about was I almost lost my life because somebody robbed me at gunpoint. The violation that I felt, I still feel to this day. Um, I have post traumatic stress from that. Um, I never quite trust my surroundings. I haven't since 2015. I'm always looking over my shoulder, um, especially when I'm by myself. Um, I do everything that you're taught to do. But I'm telling you guys this to tell you trauma. Things happen all the time. And then that trauma was compounded when we lost my grandmother a couple of days after that. So I'm dealing with being robbed at gunpoint, and then I'm dealing with the loss of my grandmother, all within a span of a couple of days. That was in 2015. This is 2024. And I still have issues while I'm out. I still have issues where I'm always constantly looking around me, looking at my surroundings. If someone walks up behind me, I freak out. I still to this day have trauma. So, what I'm telling you guys is it is okay to get help. um, the emotion that that experience elicited from me was fear. The other emotion was anger. The other emotion is I'm constantly uneasy when I'm in public. Those are all emotional responses to the trauma. Even though I've talked to a professional, even though I've done the work to heal from those things, the fact that I was robbed at gunpoint still to this day elicits fear, kind of disorientation when I'm out by myself. Um, it's all an emotional response, all of it. Did I get help? Yes. Do I still need help? Yes, because I still get uneasy when I am out by myself. I still have a tendency um, to be fearful and afraid when I'm out by myself. I even get fearful and afraid even when I'm with my friends because I'm like, oh my God, we got to make sure we're okay and we're all together. Um, and I hate when people walk up on us. I do. But again, it's the uneasiness that was elicited from the response. That is a response. That is an emotional response um, to what I previously experienced. So pay attention to the emotions that you experience after you go through your traumatic event. Those emotional responses um, can help you kind of um, deal with what healing you need. So you have to recognize what happens to you when things are experienced. So pay attention to the emotional responses you have. The other thing I want to say about that is that also goes into the other thing that Dr. Chandler was discussing when she was saying that trauma impacts your health. Um, when I was telling you guys earlier about the season that I was in my 20s, where everything was just happening, everything, and I wasn't really dealing. Remember, the impact on my health was fatigue. The impact on my health was being constantly tired, being moody, being irritable, having low energy. Um, and now that I think about it, I had periods of time where I was always sick. Either my immune system was compromised, so I was always sniffling and sneezing, coughing, just not feeling right. Um, so when you don't deal with trauma, when you hold all of that stuff in, it impacts your ability to be healthy. So you really want to pay attention to those things. So um, I don't want to hold you guys and just belabor anything. I just kind of wanted to give you some additional food for thought as we're doing the work to heal from traumatic experiences. Um, Anything can elicit a negative experience that ends up being traumatic for you. Um, Just trust your instincts, trust yourself. Know that you have resources at your disposal to help you. Um, you guys, it's December 24th. So I'm wishing you all a very Merry Christmas. We will see you next week before the new year, but I really want you guys to have a very Merry Christmas. Um, don't take time for granted. Don't take you for granted. Don't take your loved ones for granted. But please, 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 you owe it to yourself to heal. So please make the decision to do the work. Please make the decision to find someone to help you do the work. Um, that's all I have today. See you guys next week. Same channel, same time. And we're looking forward to closing out the year with show 52. This is Healing December. So just remember you owe yourself healing. Don't let these experiences, don't let the negative, don't let stuff weigh you down and make you unhappy. Don't pass those traits onto your loved ones. Make the decision to do the work. Love you guys. See you next week. Mwah.